Strip away everything you own right now. No electricity, no books, no wheels, no written word, no farms, not even fire. What's left? A species standing in the dark, eating whatever it can find raw, with no way to remember yesterday and no way to plan for tomorrow. Everything else, every skyscraper, every hospital, every phone in every pocket on the planet, sits on top of just 6 inventions. Not 6,000, 6. Each one didn't just make life easier, each one rewired what it meant to be human, and each one made the next invention possible. Today we're tracing that chain, link by link, from the first spark of fire all the way to the first flicker of electric light. Let's get into it. Fire, the first technology. Long before agriculture, before the wheel, before a single word was ever written down, there was fire. And it's easy to underestimate just how much that one discovery changed everything, because fire wasn't just about staying warm. Cooked food is dramatically easier to digest than raw food. That single shift freed up an enormous amount of energy the body no longer had to spend on digestion. Energy that many researchers believe helped fuel the growth of a larger, more expensive organ, the human brain. Fire also meant protection. A burning branch held at the mouth of a cave kept predators at bay in a way our ancestors' bodies never could on their own. It meant light after sunset, which meant the day effectively got longer. More hours for tools, for talking, for teaching the next generation. And it meant community. Gathering around a shared flame at night is arguably the first form of social infrastructure humans ever built. The ancestor of every fireplace, every kitchen table, every campfire story since. Fire is the invention that made every invention after it possible. Without it, there's no metalworking, no cooking surplus food for storage, no light to work by after dark. It's the root of the whole tree. Agriculture, the invention that invented everything else. For nearly the entire span of human existence, our ancestors were nomadic, following herds, following seasons, carrying everything they owned on their backs. Then, roughly 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, in several different regions of the world independently, something shifted. Humans stopped simply gathering what the land offered and started deliberately planting it. This sounds almost too simple to matter, but it's arguably the single biggest turning point in human history. Farming meant a reliable, storable food surplus for the first time ever, and a surplus changes everything. It means you don't need every single person hunting or foraging just to survive. Some people can now spend their time doing something else entirely. Making tools, building shelters, organizing labor, thinking. Agriculture is the invention that made specialization possible. And specialization is what eventually produced blacksmiths, scribes, priests, soldiers, and rulers. It's also what made permanent settlements possible for the first time. Villages, then towns, then cities, because you no longer had to move with the herd. You could stay exactly where the crops were. Of course, it came with real costs too. Closer living quarters spread disease more easily, diets narrowed and worsened in some ways, and social hierarchies hardened as some people began controlling land and stored grain that others didn't. But there's no path to civilization as we understand it without this single shift from foraging to farming. The wheel solving distance. Roughly 5,000 years ago, someone, somewhere, invented the wheel. One of the simplest ideas humanity has ever had, and one of the most consequential. At first, it wasn't even primarily used for transportation. Some of the earliest wheels were used for pottery. But once wheels were paired with axles and put under carts, everything about distance changed. Suddenly, goods that were once carried on human backs or dragged behind animals could move in bulk, over longer distances, with far less effort. Trade routes expanded. Cities that had been limited by how far food and materials could realistically travel could now grow bigger, because supply lines stretched further. And the wheel's influence didn't stop at transportation. It's the ancestor of the gear, the pulley, the water wheel, and eventually every rotating mechanism inside every engine and machine that followed it. Pull the wheel out of history, and the entire concept of machinery as we understand it simply doesn't exist. Writing, the invention of memory itself. For most of human history, everything anyone knew lived only in living memory, passed down by voice, generation to generation, vulnerable to being distorted, forgotten, or lost entirely the moment the person holding it died. Then, roughly 5,000 years ago, in places like Mesopotamia and Egypt, humans invented writing. This is, in a very real sense, the invention of memory that outlives the individual. A law could now be recorded exactly and referenced identically by everyone who read it. A harvest could be counted and tracked across years, not just remembered approximately. A story, a discovery, a piece of knowledge could survive its author by centuries. Writing is what allowed complex bureaucracies, legal systems, and large-scale trade to function at all. You cannot run an empire on rumor and memory alone. It's also the foundation of every subsequent invention on this list that involves recorded knowledge, because science itself depends on being able to write down a result. So someone else, somewhere else, sometime later, can check it, build on it, or prove it wrong. The printing press, democratizing knowledge. Writing solved the problem of memory. But for thousands of years afterward, it didn't solve the problem of access. Because before 1440, if you wanted a book, someone had to copy it out by hand, letter by letter, an achingly slow and expensive process that kept most knowledge locked inside monasteries, courts, and the households of the wealthy. Then Johannes Gutenberg mechanized printing, and the entire calculus of who got to know things changed almost overnight. A single press could now produce more copies of a text in a week than a scribe could produce by hand in a lifetime. Books became cheaper, more available, and more widespread than anyone had thought possible. Ideas that once took a lifetime to spread across a continent could now travel in years, sometimes months. This is the direct engine behind the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the scientific revolution. None of those movements are possible in a world where information still travels at the speed of a single monk's quill. The printing press didn't just spread existing knowledge faster. It made an entirely new scale of collective human thought possible. Which one do you think mattered most? The one that made brains bigger, or the one that made empires possible, or the one running through the walls of the room you're sitting in right now? Sit with that question for a second. And if this kind of deep dive is your thing, subscribe. There's a lot more of this story left to tell.